you can actually make money and then tell the IRS that you lost money legally.
Bend down and play with their grandkids, go on a walk, able to sit and go on a road trip in the car with their family and friends. So that aspect can be very life-changing for some people.
Finance really isn't hard. It's not the math that trips people up. It's the discipline to create a budget and to stick to it. Finance for the everyday millennial. Hard-charging solutions. We provide an accelerant in the journey towards financial independence. Welcome to Cassian with Cassian, the financial forum for young professionals. Today we're going to be talking about, you guessed it, finance, with my friend Dr. Dane Johnson. If you've ever wondered what it's like in the day in the life of a physical therapist, you're about to find out. After graduating from Azusa Pacific University with a Bachelor's of Science in Applied Exercise Science in 2016, and then graduating with his doctorate in physical therapy in 2020, he decided to serve as a physical therapist at Premier Physical Therapy in the outpatient orthopedics department. The thoughts, comments, and opinions that Dr. Johnson is about to express do not reflect the opinions of Premier Physical Therapy and are the sole responsibility of Dane. Also, nothing discussed today should be taken as personalized investment advice. How you doing today, man?
I am doing outstanding. It's good to see you, and I'm excited to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. When did you start learning about personal finances? What motivated you to start taking it seriously or to start to learn yourself? Like, kind of help us understand what it was like for personal finance education.
Yeah, so I'd say my kind of first experience with finances came towards the end of my collegiate experience. I was fortunate to have some academic and athletic scholarship during college. And so I was, didn't have too much to worry about on that end. But as I started coming near graduation and looking at what was going to happen, how I was going to make a living, as I was living on my own in a house with a bunch of college friends, how I was going to pay rent, how I was going to put some food on my table, and what that was going to look like moving forward in the real world. And so started kind of exploring career options and weighing income versus student debt and those types of options that definitely impact a lot of students nowadays. And so through that, I decided to pursue physical therapy. Definitely had to weigh a lot of that salary versus debt to ratio there.
There are a lot of different, sub-professions within the overall profession of medicine. And your profession and dentists are up there where those folks, you guys are like really weighing, all right, this is a good bit of student loan debt that I'm about to incur. Is the salary commensurate? So yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit more, but that makes sense. Were your parents involved at all in your personal financial education journey, or was it like, hey, these bills are real, I got to get serious now? What's going on there?
They definitely played a portion of it. Through college, I worked a couple of different jobs, just part-time, minimum wage type stuff to have some play money. But as far as substantial stuff, definitely had some help from my parents. And one of the biggest kind of helps they provided for me was when I went to grad school, I actually moved back home because I had to weigh the option of how much more loan money am I going to take out? Because if you're in grad school, you're not working, you got to pay rent, you got to pay utilities, food, all that stuff. It's like, okay, do I take out an extra X thousands of dollars to pay for that, or can I move home? And so I made the option to move home and commuted 20 miles to my university for grad school. That was definitely a major factor in my kind of financial figuring stuff out. Part of that ratio again played into there.
That is actually really, really smart. I think a lot of people in our generation may have said, I'm not going to sacrifice my independence. I want to come and go as I please. I'm not going to move back home. I'm just going to, take out the debt and pay this rent and continue to pay all these other expenses So I applaud you on making that decision. And I'm sure your parents must be awesome people to take you back as a grown man for 4 more years.
Yes, I'm very fortunate for them.
Yeah, but that's good. For those listening, if you have a decision to take out student loan debt or to not take out student loan debt, I think the choice is clear. You should definitely avoid as much student loan debt as possible if you have those options available to you, because at the end of the day, you are going to graduate, you are going to move into the career that you're studying for, and then you'll be able to pay fewer student loans back, right? And you'll be able to progress even faster. So that's awesome. Next question. What do you most and least look forward to about your job?
So being a physical therapist can be a very, very rewarding job. One of the things I look forward to is making progress and getting people back to life, back to what they want to do, whether it's working with athletes and getting them back on the field or on the court or whatever, back to running, and enjoying that. Or maybe it's getting back to work. They had some sort of work injury and they're not able to work. And so they're worried about putting food on their table and paying bills to provide for their family. So getting them through that injury to get them back to work, or just giving someone their life back, be able to bend down and play with their grandkids, go on a walk, able to sit and go on a road trip in the car with their family and friends. So that aspect can be very life-changing for some people. On the flip side, people bring all of that to you. The stresses that come with their ailments, the emotional taxation, the frustrations, they bring all that to you. And part of being a physical therapist, sometimes it feels more like a therapist and talking things through, coming up with coping strategies, how to best remedy the stress. Sometimes it may be referring to an actual therapist who's way more versed and can handle that way better than I can, given my education wise and experience. But at times that can be very frustrating.
I can see that for sure. You're over here trying to make sure that they have mobility, and they're over here telling you about how their grandkids just can't get right. So, yeah.
And it makes sense. I am there for them. And a lot of times they don't have someone who's going to be a willing set of ears for 20, 30, 60 minutes out of the day. And I'm that person. And so they lay it all on me. I've heard everything about relationship problems, work problems, house problems, like all of it. I've heard it, and that can take a toll on you. And so part of me being able to deal with that is finding positive outlets for myself, being able to turn that switch off when I leave work. I make a habit to get to the gym every day after work, that to just kind of clear my mind, have a reset, so that when I do get home, see my family and my friends, whatever I'm doing after work, I'm present with them, and I'm not bringing that baggage home with me.
Makes sense. Based on that, is it safe to assume that a majority of your patients are skew older? So people who are a little bit older with mobility issues are what you're typically dealing with. Can you speak to that? And if you have experience with other DPTs in your area, is it area dependent? Are you able to specialize and only deal with athletes? If you go into like primary care, that's where you're going to find more older people. How does that work?
Yeah, there are a whole bunch of different avenues you can go in with physical therapy. My specific one, outpatient orthopedics, tends to be more on the middle-aged to older patients who are sedentary, having your normal age-related degenerative aches and pains, stuff like that. But being orthopedics, there are still those younger kids, athletes, college age people that come on in with their knee injuries after surgeries. But there is a wider breadth of what you can do with physical therapy. If you want to go strictly into sport, obviously you're going to see a lot more of a younger population. If you want to go into inpatient, you're going to be in the hospital dealing with different types of ailments in the hospital, working on getting someone up out of bed and roll over in bed. And so whether that's someone from a car accident or someone who's had a stroke or a heart attack, There are neurological PTs who deal with people with strokes, Parkinson's, different types of neurological conditions. And so there's also pediatrics. Strictly, they work with pediatrics from premature babies all the way through infants up into teenagers. And so there's a whole bunch of other ones out there I'm probably missing right now. But there's a lot of different avenues you can go into with PT.
So when it comes to medical doctors, they can become surgeons. They can specialize in a specific part of the body, neurosurgeon, heart surgeon, etc. They could become general practitioners, right, where they are family doctors and they just see people and then refer to specialists if necessary. And they do that, I think, in like their second or third year. At what point, as you're going through your doctorate of physical therapy, are you deciding which track? Like, I'm going to go sports or I'm going to go ortho. And did finances play a role in that? Like, sports is where the money's at, so I'm going this way, or ortho is not so much money, but I love helping people who are in pain, so I'm going to go that way. Like, what does that look like?
So some people come into physical therapy school with, this is what I'm doing, I'm sticking to it. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they completely flip. So we, like all those things I talked about, acute care, inpatient, orthopedics, pediatrics, neurological, we take classes in all of those throughout school. And then we have specific clinical rotations where you spend anywhere from 2 days, 2 weeks to up to 10 or 12 weeks in that setting, working 40 hours a week as a physical therapist from a clinical instructor. And that's what the school tries to do, is give you a wide understanding and exposure so you can make that best decision for yourself. Personally, I lean towards the orthopedic route. That was what I enjoyed most in school. I would probably say it has opportunity for lots of financial growth, because with outpatient ortho, you can technically open your own clinic. So then you're becoming more of a business owner. There are a lot of PTs out there, may not be the best PT, but they can be a very successful business owner. Or you could have on the flip side, a phenomenal PT who doesn't quite run the business right, and they don't have great success and have to close down their doors. And so there is definitely a big financial aspect to that. And depending on region you live in, whether it's rural, urban, city, there's different pay rates based off of need. There's depending at hospitals, travel PT. And so you can get a nice blend of pay scale throughout the different specialties. But I wouldn't necessarily went to orthopedics for that was my financial decision. It was based off of what I enjoyed doing.
Gotcha. I was going to ask that too. Which one of these is more apt to actually hang their own shingle? And outpatient orthopedics is the way, or more, I think, in real.
Yes.
At any point in time, is there like a program that people can take to learn how to hang their own shingle, or is it literally just now you should go get an MBA or figure out how to, have your own storefront and do all that stuff?
There are definitely resources out there, weekend classes, online seminars on how to open up your own practice and how to go about that business aspect. There's definitely go into the business school, get your MBA or something like that can definitely help. And so, people make their own programs off of stuff like that. I'm going to teach you a weekend course or an online seminar of how to teach someone to open their own clinic. Then obviously up to someone to, if they want to take part in that, or people just go off on their own. They find that they're really good at something. They've developed a little network for themselves. Sometimes it's from what I've seen is someone gets connected with a local gym, start treating patients on the side there. They develop large enough clientele that they go and rent out a space and open their own clinic and grow from there.
Nice. But you've never had those ambitions. You were always
I initially went into PT school with the goal of wanting to open my own clinic.
Okay.
And because that's where the money's at. Like,
where the money is at.
That's where it's at. And so, unfortunately, through some of my clinical experiences, I got to take part in some of those, private practice clinics. Got to actually shadow a business owner, and he was very successful. But I saw kind of the the life he had. I kind of felt like he was married to the clinic. Weekends, nights, he was out in the community, at high school games, open the clinic early on weekends to get people in there and say, well, end goals, have a family and stuff like that. And you're running a successful business, but you've got other commitments, other side gigs to try and make more money, get yourself seen. And I didn't see myself doing that, and so it kind of deterred me a little bit.
So I want to stop right here and kind of explore this a little bit more and explain what we call the W.I.L.A mountain. W.I.L.A stands for worker, independent operator, large company owner, and then asset manager. And it sounds like your experience with this business owner being self-employed was that he's an independent operator. So he works inside of his business. The business does not work without him. And what we encourage folks to do throughout our educational courses, and if they become clients, is to become a large company owner, whereby they can completely remove themselves from the day-to-day and the business can still operate efficiently and effectively. The only way to do that, obviously, is to professionally fire yourself, right? You have to replace yourself and your capability with somebody else, and do it at a point where you're still going to be profitable, because now you have to pay that person and you have to have some sort of retained earnings for yourself. So I think in your profession or in medical professions writ large, y'all are really good at providing quality care. It's clear that you have that caring, nurturing side, but sometimes the business acumen is missing. And so to all the people out there who are thinking about becoming DPTs, MDs, anything in the medical profession and hanging their own shingle, I would encourage you not to go and get your MBA and do it yourself. It's possible, it's been done, but you're always going to have that conflict between quality care and being a business owner. And you wear both of those hats. They are two totally different hats. I encourage people to go and outsource the business side of it so that they can focus just on providing the care, and then somebody's making sure that the day-to-day is being taken care of. And then that person will be able to tell you, hey, we're at a place now in your business where you can hire another provider to replace you. And then you could just come in whenever you want. That provider's doing the day-to-day stuff. The business is still running. So I don't know exactly where this person is in their journey and their practice, but to all the folks listening, that's how we encourage you to do it. Separate the roles and keep them separate as much as possible. You're either going to provide the care and someone else is going to look at the business aspects of it, or you went to school for medicine, but you're actually more passionate about business, so you're going to focus on the business side of it, and as quickly as possible, you're going to find some other person to provide the care. So thank you for sharing that. Next, I'm going to jump into some data and statistics. So, according to salary.com, the average salary for a doctor of physical therapy is somewhere around $95,000 a year nationwide and $120,000 in the San Bernardino County area where you reside. And the average student loan debt, including undergraduate debt, is about $142,000, according to the American Physical Therapy Association. Do these numbers resonate with you at all? And did you know stats like this before you decided to go down your path?
I think those from people I have spoken with, both some of my colleagues and people I graduated with, as well as some people who've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, I think those numbers are a little generous. I think the salary I don't think is that quite that high from what, like I said, from people I've spoken with. And I think the student loans might be a little bit more based off of people I've spoken with. And again, I went to a private university. And so I think those numbers might be a little bit generous.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's also another thing to kind of point out. Thank you for that. For folks who are still in their bachelor's or thinking about their bachelor's, but know they want to go and get their doctorate and practice medicine, make sure you're actually talking to people in the field. It's not enough to go to salary.com and to go to some of these sites and pull up some data and statistics. You really get the information that you're going to need to make an informed decision from people who are currently practicing. That's where you're going to know, hey, my salary is 180, but I'm 20 years in the game. Back when I came in, my starting salary was X. And now that I've hired 2 or 3 people just out of college, in my practice, I'm offering them X, so you can expect the same, right? So folks who are looking to become DPTs, definitely, I'm sure you'd probably agree, you should go and talk to people who are the business owners, or go to the hospitals, wherever it is you're wanting to work, and then just kind of inquire about what a starting salary might look like, because that's very important. You got to know what that number is, because that number is going to inform the amount of student loans that you can take out and how long it's going to take for you to pay those back. I don't know why or what factored into you deciding to go private or public. Can you talk about that? Why you decided to go private?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely a lot more. I could be wrong, but I think just in my area, more private DPT programs than there are public. And I had gotten my undergraduate degree from APU. I loved the university, the people. I had some experience with the DPT program, and so I decided to stay there. I like the values of the university, and the people. I had played soccer there, and I got to stay kind of connected with that program there, and so mine was really based off of people. There were other private universities that were more expensive too, way more expensive. I'm talking like $75,000 more for at the end of 3 years to get the same. You graduate with the same degree. You might have a little bit different network based off of where you went. But for me, I went with APU. Still private, not as expensive as some other ones, but still, paying for a private university, it's pricey.
Okay. So there were more programs, more DPT programs in the private space than the public space. That makes sense for your area. Did you ever consider leaving Southern California to go to a university someplace else in the country?
I did not, based off of financials. That being able to live at home was a very deciding factor for me and where I wanted to go to school.
Okay, so in your specific situation, the finances made more sense to stay local, get rid of that room and board expense, and only have that tuition expense. That makes sense.
Yes.
That is some pretty solid planning there. Okay, next question. What has been the most traumatic experience that you have had with money? So what I'm really looking for here is, what was the catalyst that really opened your eyes to the importance of increasing your financial literacy and IQ so that you can be able to do whatever it is that you want to do with your time?
Yeah. So kind of a little funny story. I was on a double date in undergraduate and college. And at that time, I was not working, didn't have a job, any income. And so my parents were, again, blessed with good parents who were able to help me with some spending money, whether it's groceries or going on dates and stuff like that. I didn't know how much money I had on my debit card. And so I went out to dinner, and my card got declined. So yeah, had to ask for her to pay it. I eventually paid her back, but it's a little strike to the masculinity a little bit. And I made sure after that, I knew how much I had on my card.
Okay.
To make sure that I would not get put in those situations again. I think knowing how much money you have in your bank account, fortunately for me, that was a debit card. They got declined, and I could have, if it was a credit card, could have kept ringing that bill up without looking at what was there. But from that point on, I make a good point of looking at my accounts almost on a daily basis.
So 2 things. First, I think the question everybody would want me to ask is, was there a second date?
So this was already, I think, a year and a half into the relationship.
Oh,
So she was committed to me. Yeah.
yeah, it is.
But still, it gets you.
It does. It does. Especially because you're on a double date. So now you got these other.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were going through some things. That's hilarious.
I don't think we had another double date with them.
That's what. He's not gonna have us pay.
Yeah.
Next time, both of them will have to pay for them. Not today. And then the second point that I wanted to make, because you brought it up, was the difference between that debit card and that credit card. So a lot of people, I tell people all the time, finance really isn't hard. It's not the math that trips people up. It's the discipline to create a budget and to stick to it. Our lives, there are so many different things that get our attention and cost money that it's very easy to just spend way more than you originally anticipated to spend. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If you had a credit card, your monster drinks at the gas station, your little snacks throughout the week and the month, those things add up, and then you go to these dinners, and before you know it, you look at your balance on your credit card, and it's way higher than you thought it would be. And so that debit card for a lot of people is that hard stop that they need to say, hey, there's no more money here. There's no other options. Like, you need to go make some more money and put more into this account if you want to continue to spend. Credit cards don't have that hard stop in the same way. Next question. What are some of the employee benefits enjoyed by people in your industry that others that are looking to join your industry may not be aware of? So I'm looking for like retirement accounts, employer-sponsored retirement accounts that maybe are only available to DPTs. If you guys have some sort of union or association that's available to you that has really awesome benefits, what are some of those things that you benefit from being a DPT?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there really isn't much of a union with physical therapists, at least not yet. There's been some talk about that, and some hospitals, I think Kaiser, they are a union. But as far as PTs go, that is not very well heard of as far as the unions go. Kind of the typical standard. Your 401k through your workplace, they do their percentage matching, that type of stuff. But one thing that is very fortunate, and you can definitely negotiate for when signing a contract, is continuing education units, and those getting paid for. So what that is as a licensed healthcare practitioner, especially a physical therapist, you're required to complete 30 hours every 2 years. So 15 hours a year of some sort of continuing education, whether it's attending a seminar, going to a conference, participating in some online study. There's a whole bunch of things that are eligible for that, but you have to do those in order to maintain your license. And those are all very costly. There are people that simply run businesses based off of continuing education providers. And so they can be as cheap as $10 a unit, upwards to hundreds, thousands of dollars for those units. And so you can get a budget through your work that they will pay for $1,000, $2,000 a year towards units. Then sometimes they also allow you to use that towards your license, because your license as a physical therapist in your state needs to be renewed. In California, it's every 2 years, it needs to be renewed. And that is another few $100s out of your pocket to pay for that. But sometimes you can use your continuing education money towards that. So that's definitely something to, when you're looking into signing a contract, what the employee benefits are, having those Con Ed money could definitely save you a couple $1,000s.
Awesome. You talked about a 401k with match, and the way you described it leads me to believe that it's probably not dissimilar to what other people in the medical profession are receiving. So if you work for a hospital, regardless of whether or not you're a DPT, MD, BSN, whatever your CRNA, the employer is providing retirement sponsored plans to everybody. So everybody gets to take advantage of the same thing. So
Yes, that's correct.
in your case, what is your employer matching?
I think it is matching up to 3%.
3%. Okay. How does that compare? Have you done research to how that compares to other employers in your area?
I have not compared.
I will say that's a little on the low side. I'm assuming it might be because your employer is smaller. They're not Kaiser Permanente, right? But in order to supplement your retirement account or your contributions to your retirement plan, I would recommend an individual retirement account if you're not doing that already. At 3%, I'm sure because you're very studious about your finances, that you're at least taking advantage of 3% match. I always tell people, whatever your employer is offering in a match, that is the floor. That is the minimum amount that you should be contributing, because that's literally free money that you can take advantage of. And then if you want to go over and above that, that's fine in the employer-sponsored plan, or you could just open your own brokerage account and contribute that way. Either way is fine. But in terms of taking advantage of the tax benefits, having a retirement vehicle is definitely the best way to go, because if you go Roth, it's tax advantaged. So the money that you're contributing is making money and it's growing tax-free. And then when you're ready to take a distribution, it's also tax-free, versus a traditional where when you make a contribution, the money is growing tax-free, but when you take a distribution, you have to pay taxes at that point. With all of that being said, are we taking advantage of an individual retirement account? And if not, is that something that we're going to look into?
I have one, and I contribute to the max every year. Thank you. Shout out to my brother for that one. He is a financial analyst, and he makes sure I am on it. So
that's good. That's awesome. Shout out to your brother. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good that you max out those IRA contributions to kind of supplement the 401k there. Is there anything else that you're doing to get you to retirement? Any type of investing you're doing, contributions, other accounts, saving money, purchasing assets?
So for me, I am very save heavy. With where we're at right now, as far as student loans go, I want to pay those off as quickly as possible. My goal initially was in 5 years. I think I might be able to do it in under 3, based off how aggressive I was saving. Part of that is in thanks to the government putting a 0% interest on these student loans right now, and so that has definitely helped with that interest not accumulating a lot and being able to pay off them a little bit quicker. But I think that aggressive saving I've been doing is a good habit to carry forward. Once my loans are all paid off of, that's just excess money I can now put towards retirement, other investment options, which I've not looked into yet because my focus has been on my student loan payoffs.
Do you keep dreaming about when you'll be able to pursue your passions? It can be challenging to turn that dream into reality while providing quality care to your patients, addressing your student loans, and living a comfortable life. I'm Cassian Nuñez, the CEO of RINO Invest, and I'm here to share a better way, the RINO way, which will make you financially independent sooner so that you can start to do more of what you are actually passionate about. Just to be clear, financial independence is achieved when your passive income exceeds your expenses, freeing you to pursue your passions, be it the ER job you love, helping your community through volunteer work, or becoming a world traveler. In other words, you are no longer trading your time for money to keep food on the table and pay your bills. So, what is the RINO way? It is the roadmap to achieving financial independence using the 4 guideposts of real education, investments in performing assets, no bad debt, and oversight of those assets. Our RINO account provides products and services as a pathway to achieving your goals at a pace you set and in an environment with other like-minded people, all focused on lighting a fire in their financial plan. Becoming a RINO will increase your financial IQ by making you familiar with the concept of risk and return, the different asset classes available for investment, and how you can take advantage of those options immediately. You'll have access to curated courses, online calculators, wealth guides, checklists, and your own net worth tracker. All this and more with your RINO account. So I invite you to take the first step towards realizing your goals by opening an account today. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to working with you.
By chance, are you familiar with Dave Ramsey?
I am.
So he talks about being gazelle intense and just knocking out your debt as fast as possible. And you're that gazelle who's running away from the cheetah who's chasing you. The cheetah is just... And it takes a lot of discipline because, like I said, there are a lot of things that are distracting you. Some people let the math get in the way and they start to talk about opportunity cost and how much money am I losing by not investing it right now versus just paying down this debt. And there is some truth to that. But at the end of the day, paying down debt is a guaranteed rate of return. Whatever the interest rate is on that loan is a guaranteed rate of return. If it's 6%, 7%, whatever percent, private loans usually have a higher interest rate. You're guaranteed that money by paying down that loan versus having the opportunity to make on average 11% if you were to invest in the S&P 500. So I just encourage people, especially medical professionals who have so much debt, to prioritize the debt, but also make sure that they have that long-term outlook on where they want to be. So as soon as the debt is completely paid off or near being paid off, they know exactly where that money is going to be going. You have to have a plan for reallocation. If you've been knocking out those loans $5,000 a month, as soon as those are paid off, you're going to have $5,000 a month. You might be enticed to go get a car and then pay that off. And then you might be enticed to go get a home or something like that. And you might inadvertently put investing to the side as you start to reap the benefits of your hard work. Like you just paid off 6 figures in student loan debt. Heck yeah, I'm getting a Mercedes now. Heck yeah, I'm going to get that $700,000 mortgage. Yeah, like I deserve it. I just paid all this off. I encourage people, make a plan now while you're paying off those student loans so that you can maintain that level of discipline required to reallocate some of that money to investments while you go out and upgrade your life a little bit now that you no longer have those loans. But that's really good to hear. 3 years and you'll be free of student loans. Are those the only debts that you hold right now, or is that just the biggest one?
Those are the only debts I have right now.
That's awesome. Okay. That's good. Next question. What are some of the barriers to entry for becoming a DPT?
Yeah, so physical therapy is a very, very competitive industry to get into as far as going through the application process to get into a graduate school program. They take into account undergraduate GPA, experience, whether that's, shadowing, volunteer work, working in a clinic, diversity of that experience, whether it's a hospital, outpatient, or pediatrics, all those different entities, and then sitting through interviews, writing essays. So it's a very long process. I've known some people who've gone through 3 years of applications, interviews, and denials, and are continuing at it. And I applaud them with that perseverance. So that is a huge barrier to getting in. It's simply getting all of the right classes, the right hours, references. Getting that GPA is the biggest thing to make yourself competitive for a program. And also understanding how much money it's going to cost. Like, it's not upfront out of your pocket. That's where the loans come in. But understanding, hey, long term, you're gonna be paying back more. So that can definitely be a deterrent for some people.
That's very good to know for folks that are still early days, that this is a very competitive process. So that's good. Is it because there are so few programs, or is it just really, really strict? A lot of people, it's a popular profession, so a lot of people want to do it, or?
Yes, the profession is growing a lot. When I first got into physical therapy, it was one of the, I want to say, top 10 fastest growing industries in the country. And so with that, with the aging population, sedentary culture we have, a lot of work from home, sitting at desks, computers, aches and pains develop. And so where do they go with those? Physical therapy. And so there's just a high demand for it. So that's why it's so competitive.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. Last question before we move into my favorite segment. Help us understand what initially drove you to become a DPT, and why are you deciding to make a career change?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my initial pursuit of physical therapy was just kind of out of experiences I had. It wasn't my dream job growing up. It was simply a accumulation of classes I enjoyed in college. I loved learning about the human body, movement, exercise, being able to help people. That's what I enjoyed, the subject matter, and I was good at it through my volunteer work, working in a clinic as an aide, as a technician. I enjoyed the work and I was good at it, and so that's what led me down that route. And like I said, a career change. I know why would I leave this career that I've invested so much time, money, and effort into? Some personal opinions, feelings of what I value in my personal life, as far as being a part of an active team environment. I love being outside. I found myself inside the clinic, inside of the office, looking outside a lot, working solo, me and the patient. I there's some interaction with other aides and other clinicians around me, as far as that team dynamic. But being an athlete, I really like being active, being moving, getting involved, doing stuff with my hands, my body, and working and training towards different goals. So I have kind of decided to pursue a career in the fire service. So still getting to provide a level of healthcare and medicine, more in acute setting. Majority of fire calls are healthcare medical related. So still get to help people in that aspect. But as far as the day-to-day trainings, interactions in the firehouse, with a team dynamic, being active, training, doing stuff like that, I feel is more appealing to me, as well as room for advancement. As a physical therapist, my first day as a clinician can very well be identical to my last day I retire. There's some room for growth if you want to go into administrative director roles like that, take on leadership, study type stuff. But I felt that I liked a kind of a hierarchical, almost like paramilitary structure with reporting, room for advancement, room for growth. And I see that the fire service has that, as far as fireman, engineer, captain, chief, and stuff like that, moving up the ranks, and being able to have that room for advancement, as well as some of the more financial freedom. I feel that it come through that more opportunity, like I said, with unions, retirement accounts. I'll be able to work overtime if I need more money, and I think having a better work-life type balance, just more suited with my personal aspirations.
So I am not a recruiter, I promise. You brought it up, but I don't make any money based on your decision either way. Why not join the military? Therapists, there's the whole hierarchy. You're almost always side team,
And I actually attempted that. That was and when I graduated PT school, I spent the first, would have been 8 months going through the whole application process, and fully submitted, went through MEPS, submitted to the boards. And again, very competitive process. and I just unfortunately was not selected.
Which branch?
Air Force.
No, see, you should have called me. The Air Force takes pleasure in denying people their exclusivity. I promise you. So many people have tried to join the Air Force. I looked into it for 2.5 seconds before I said, no, this isn't for me, because they don't have the amount of opportunities to move around. The Air Force is very, structured around their airframes. Like you're in a squadron or you're in like an air wing. It's all built on the platform of the aircraft, and that's on the place. And the Army is, it's everywhere, and we do everything. We're on sea. We have a lot of boats. We have planes. We have choppers. We have all this stuff, and then we're stationed everywhere. So for me, the Army made more sense. And then they take everybody. The Army takes, I'm not going to say everything, but something close to 90%, I have to believe. Why not, forget the Air Force, Army?
I have looked at it, but that was a little bit after the fact. It's not completely out. I'm not guaranteed anything with fire right now. So not guaranteed. But.
And I want to be clear. I'm talking about the Army Reserve too. So you could do both. You could be a fireman and 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks out of the year. And then if there's a deployment, then you go do your 9 months wherever, what have you. I'm in the reserve. It's great. So, full time as I transition, full time, I'm going to be, a financial planner and doing this, interviews with folks, helping clients achieve their financial goals. But from time to time, I do, like you, appreciate that team environment, one goal, everybody outside, building that tent, creating that structure that we need to prepare for a deployment or something like that. That stuff is very, I think, helpful for my physical being, for my mental being. I just love the idea of teamwork. So Army Reserve, man, again, not
keep my options open. maybe I need to look into it a little bit more.
Yes. And I actually work at my unit. I'm in a medical command. So there are 3 commands in the reserve. One handles everything on the East Coast, one handles everything on the West Coast, and then one is just people located down in Florida. So I could also kind of put you in contact with a recruiter, and with you already being a DPT, you probably wouldn't even have to come in as a lieutenant. You could probably come in as a captain. You'd be set, man. We'll talk off.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So we're going to move into my favorite segment, So You Think You're Smarter Than a RINO. All right.
All right. Bring it on.
Well, there are 6 questions here. I tell folks the intent behind this is to be a learning experience. All right. It's to be a learning experience. Give it your best shot. If you don't know, just, provide something and kind of talk through. I'm not here to shame anybody. First you're going to hear is, that was close. It doesn't matter how far off you were, right?
My best educated guess.
What are the 4 types of asset classes?
Salary, tenants, retirement, savings.
All right. You were close. The 4 types of asset classes are real estate, commodities, securities, and business. The reason why these are the 4 types of asset classes, and we don't use the more traditional definition of asset classes, stocks, bonds, cash or paper assets, we put all of those things as subcategories into securities, is because these are the things that can make you money. All the things you said are not types of asset classes, but ordinarily people will say like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Those are securities. If you open up a brokerage account, you are going to be able to purchase those types of assets within the securities asset class. You should expect a return, which is why you're putting the money in and investing. and the return should be passive. So the securities asset class covers the more traditional things because it has a lower barrier of entry of stocks, real estate investment trusts, bonds, paper assets like cash, which is your money market account. Then you have commodities. Commodities are things like precious metals, gold, silver, platinum. It's also things like owning a farm and livestock. It's things like owning oil derricks, which is separate from owning a stock in an oil company. If you own a stock in an oil company, that's a security. If you actually own the land and the mechanism, the oil derrick, then you're in the commodities business. You're producing the oil. So those are the commodities, examples of commodities that people can invest in. Real estate is the number one asset class. We believe it to be the number one asset class because it pays you 5 different ways. We have a YouTube video on that. It's called The Ideal Investment. Ideal is an acronym for income, depreciation, equity growth, appreciation, and leverage. So real estate is excellent as a tax haven. There are subcategories within real estate. So you have residential real estate where you would go out and purchase a home and then put a tenant in it. You have commercial real estate where you can purchase like a strip mall and then have a bunch of different shops where people rent out the shop and then you own the whole building. That's commercial. And depending on the type of work that they're doing in those things, it could be retail or commercial. And then you have industrial. You can own a massive warehouse and then you can rent it to Amazon so that they can use it as a fulfillment center, or you can rent out this massive thing as a convention space for people who want to throw massive parties, stuff like that. So there are a bunch of subcategories within the real estate asset class. And then the last asset class is business. And when we talk about business, we're talking about that large company owner. This asset class is all about systems. If you're producing a product or a service, you create a system to create that product or a service. And then you can remove yourself entirely from that system, except for things like managing to make sure that things are happening. But in terms of day-to-day, someone else is actually facilitating the operation of that business. In this asset class, you can think of franchises. If you own a McDonald's, you're a business owner. There's clearly a system there. There's a whole menu. You pay into this system, and then the expected return is provided to you because they mathematically know more or less how many visitors you're going to get and how much product you have to purchase in order to provide for those things. Franchising is the most known way to enter the business field. You can also start your own business. In your case specifically, you can open your own practice, hang your own shingle, right? And then eventually remove yourself from the operations side and hire a new provider. And now you actually own a business where you're no longer working in there day to day. Someone else is doing all the operational stuff and you're the business owner. So those are the 4 types of asset classes: real estate, commodities, securities, and business. We have courses on real estate, securities, and business. If you open a Club RINO Plus account, you will have access to those 4 courses, 4 hours worth of self-paced content, and it's curated to the student. So it's really awesome stuff. Highly encourage people to do that. Second question, you're going to get in the game on this one. What is the maximum contribution that you can make to a 401k in 2022?
19,500.
So close. 20,500. In 2021, it was 19,500. In 2022, it's 20,500. In 2023, it's 21,500. All right. Question number 3. What is the equation for achieving financial independence?
I want to say the quadratic formula just because you said formula, but I don't know why my mind went there.
Listen, if you remember that, that's impressive in and of itself. Because I'm
x equals negative b plus or minus square root of 4/8 of the square root of, I guess I don't remember what it is.
e squared minus 4ac over 2a.
Yeah, there it is.
So that's not
Formula for financial, and that's not correct.
Let's define what financial independence is. Financial independence is when you no longer have to trade your time for money. So however whatever that means to you. If you no longer have to trade your time for money, what could an equation look like to get you there?
Income times hours minus expenditures times hours not worked equals financial independence.
Honestly, that has to be hours not worked, you said. Hours not worked.
Correct.
That has to be the most thoughtful answer. Wrong answer. So, way we help look at financial independence from an equation standpoint is passive income minus expenses equals financial independence. So if you look at those asset classes, if you have 10 rental properties and each one of them produces $1,000 after all of the expenses, you want mortgage, taxes, insurance. After you paid all that, you make $1,000 a month. Now you have $10,000 coming in passively. You are trading your time for money at all. If your expenses are less than $10,000, you are considered to be financially independent. So that's the equation. Passive income minus your expenses equals financial independence. There's a whole movement. It's called FIRE, Financially Independent, Retire Early. Don't know if you're familiar with this movement. It's a millennial movement, but we're all about decreasing our expenses and then increasing our investments so that we can start to take distributions from them, no longer trading our time for money. And then that money will pay for our lowered expenses, and then we never have to work again. And you're supposed to do that like in your 30s and 40s. And then that money should last you your entire life. So that's what we do at RINO Invest. We help people achieve financial independence as soon as possible. And we love working with folks in your profession, the medical professions, because you guys are so passionate about what you do. And sometimes you neglect yourself, especially in this area. So we kind of fill in that gap and provide you with the asset classes, educate you on that, make sure that there's a right fit with your risk profile and what your stated financial goals are, so that we can start to invest in the right asset class to get you that passive income, to pay your expenses, to get you to financial independence.
Very valuable.
I think so. And for the low, low price of $100 a day, RINO Plus member. Question number 4. When thinking about real estate investment properties, what does the IRS allow you to do that can result in a passive loss? Now, this is a multiple choice. So here are your options. Option number 1, you can claim repairs and maintenance expenses as a deduction on your investment property. Option number 2, you can claim $2,000 in marketing expenses to market that property to lease it. Option number 3, you can claim property taxes, so you can deduct the taxes that you pay from the income produced by your investment property. Option number 4, depreciation. So for as long as you own that property, the IRS will allow you to depreciate the value based on normal wear and tear, and you can take that depreciation and count it against your income. And option number 5, all of these are things that can contribute to a passive loss in your investment property.
I'm going to go with E, all the above. Final answer.
All right. So that is definitely the most commonly selected option. It unfortunately is not correct, but only because the question is, when thinking about real estate investment properties, what does the IRS allow you to do that can result in a passive loss? So by claiming repairs and maintenance, that's an active loss. You actually had to pay to repair your property and to maintain it. So if it costs you $100, you are losing $100. For marketing expenses, the $2,000 number is arbitrary. You are able to deduct however much money you paid to market the property, but you, again, had to pay that money, so you are actively losing it. In property taxes, same deal. you're paying the county your property taxes. Depreciation is a phantom expense. The IRS allows you to claim that your property is worth less today than it was a year ago, but it's not actually worth less. The reason why they're allowing you to claim it's worth less is because the tenant is engaged in activities that are contributing to normal wear and tear of that property. So the IRS says you've had a person in here, the carpets are probably worn down, they've been using the plumbing for a year, they've been slamming doors, there's chips on the wall, and so now the property value has gone down just based on normal wear and tear. You may not have any issues with your carpet. You may not have any issues with your walls. The door may be perfectly fine, but the IRS just assumes that those things are happening and allow you to deduct it. So it's a phantom loss. And for that reason, you can end up taking a passive loss because all those other things that are active can be offset by this passive loss. And then you end up making a lot more money that way. It's one of the main reasons why real estate is an awesome asset class, because you can actually make money and then tell the IRS that you lost money legally. So that's another thing that we teach in our real estate investing course in Club RINO Plus. Question number 5. What is the difference between an index fund and a mutual fund?
The mutual is a collection of investments with stocks, whereas the index is more specific to a certain one.
More specific with certain stock?
Yes.
Okay. I think I might give you partial credit for this. So mutual funds are a collection of stocks. That is correct. An index fund is pegged to a specific index, like the S&P 500 is an index, and it has the 500 most valuable stocks in the U.S. economy. It's considered to be a more direct representation of the overall U.S. market. So the S&P 500 as an index has a fund that's directly tied to it. So you can more or less invest in the entire market by purchasing an index fund. A mutual fund could be made up of a whole host of things. So you can have consumer staples in there, you can have healthcare stocks in there, you can have technology stocks in there. It's not tied to any one index. It's not tied to the NASDAQ. It's not tied to the Dow Jones. It's not tied to the S&P. It's literally someone who thinks by pulling all these varying different stocks together that they can estimate what a return could be on it. And then they put that information in a prospectus and then they present it to the buying public and say, hey, over the last 10 years, healthcare has gone up 15% on average. And then consumer staples has gone up 7% on average. And then technology has gone up 30% on average. And so when you aggregate those numbers, it's X percent. So this mutual fund, you can expect X percent growth. And they label it high growth mutual fund, but it's got all these different things. Versus the index, you could just go to CNBC, see what the S&P 500 is doing, and you know if you have an index fund, exactly what your money's doing. If the index is up, your money's up. If the index is down, your money's down. A mutual fund, you'd have to go into your account because it's just comprised of a bunch of different things. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We encourage people to purchase index funds because it's very simple. It's got a low ratio in terms of purchasing. So you'll have to pay a slightly higher fee to purchase most mutual funds because they end up being actively managed versus index funds are not actively managed. It's literally Vanguard saying this is pegged directly to the S&P 500 and they charge like 0.001% to do that and offer it to you. That's what you pay. Versus that active mutual fund manager, they had to actually do all this research, pull all these things together into one product. So they charge you 0.5%. So it's a little bit higher for that service. Last question, the best question. What does RINO as an acronym stand for?
Returning investments, necessary organization.
returning investments necessary organization. So that is not correct.
No, that sounds horrible.
Here's what RINO stands for. Real education. So we're all about increasing the financial literacy and IQ of everyone we meet. So we provide real education. If you open a Clever Plus account, you're going to get access to those courses. You're also going to get access to wealth guides like the W.I.L.A Mountain, checklist, curated calculators. We've created our own proprietary calculators to help people make decisions, stuff like that. We're all about real education because there's so much fake education out there that somebody has to provide some good stuff that people can actually rely upon to make informed decisions. So R is real education. I is investments in performing assets. So we make the distinction, a lot of other people make the distinction between a performing asset and an asset. If you ask most people, they will tell you that their primary residence that they own is an asset, and they are correct. But we tell people to invest in performing assets. So if you ask them, is your home an asset? Yes. But do you consider it to be an investment? I would say no, because it's a use asset. You are using it. You have to pay the mortgage. You have to pay the property taxes. You have to pay the insurance. You have to pay the maintenance. You're using it. Investments are supposed to make you money. There's supposed to be a return there. So in order to turn your home into a performing asset, you would have to rent it. So investments in performing assets is what we tell people to invest in, not just assets, but performing assets. No bad debt. Student loans, knock them out in 3 years. That is an excellent goal. If you're a RINO, we'd be telling you to do that exact thing. Knock those things out. Student loans are probably the worst debt you can have. Right behind them is credit card debt, and that's only because usually credit card debt doesn't compare in terms of the balance to student loans. The interest rate is higher, but you can knock out student loan debt credit card debt much faster than you can student loan debt typically. So yeah, no bad debt, no credit card debt, no student loan debt, no personal loans, none of that stuff. Now, the reason why we say bad debt instead of all debt is because there is such a thing as good debt. We also have a YouTube video on this, the difference between good and bad debt. Good debt would be debt incurred that's going to make you money. So by getting a mortgage on your investment property, you're making money from that investment property. We would consider that to be good debt. Someone else is paying you rent, and that rent is paying the mortgage and paying you something. So take out those types of debts that make you money. Do not take out debts to the extent that you can on things that do not make you money. And then O is oversight, right? So oversight of your portfolio, of your financial plan. You can't have adequate oversight if you don't have the financial literacy and IQ that you need. The most you'll be able to do is ask your financial advisor or your financial planner, is everything good? I mean, last quarter you said we were at $500,000 and now we're at 550. I don't even know if that's good or not. I know I'm worth a little bit more, but someone who's financially literate would probably know that they should be at 600,000. And so now they're like, what went wrong? Right? Those types of questions can't happen unless you've increased your financial literacy and IQ to a place where you know what to expect. So real education, investments in performing assets, no bad debt, and then oversight of those assets is what RINO stands for. We thank you for playing, Dr. Johnson. We really appreciate your contributions to this forum. All the aspiring physical therapists are in your debt. If they have any questions, we are asking them to make a comment in the YouTube video or send us something on our website, and we will do our best to get back to you with those answers. So
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for educating me on my part.
Awesome. Thank you. Until next time, you take care.
You too. Thanks, Cassian.